We'll call this special council meeting to order. Everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take the roll, please.
O'Connor.
Here.
Morrison.
Here.
Alms.
Here.
DeZiel.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Atkins Hoggett. Here. Hall.
Here.
All right, so we are here tonight in a special meeting to discuss just one thing, and that has to do, and any issues surrounding that one thing, and that has to do with a call, a 911 call that came to our attention from Saturday, March 9th, and there were some issues apparently that were raised about that call. So let me just say, I'm gonna explain a little bit about why we're here and how this is going to run. First of all, obviously, with EMS right now, people are paying a lot closer attention to everything that's going on. And there's obviously a lot of heightened awareness, heightened anxiety, and stress around this issue involving not just folks here at the table, our staff for sure, but the community as a whole. So one of the things that we want to make sure is that when there is an issue that is raised, we want to try to respond to that as quickly as possible to make sure that the community as a whole has confidence in and is at ease with the safety and any safety concerns that they may have about our service. So having said that, this all came about on Wednesday. This past Wednesday. I was contacted by one of my constituents, and Paul, it would be one of your constituents as well, about a call that he had listened to on Saturday on a scanner. The constituent who is here tonight and probably would like to make a statement, I presume, then sent me a series of recordings from that call that he had requested from the county. That happened sometime Wednesday early afternoon, I believe. At that point, once I was in possession of those and listened to them, I did not know exactly how to proceed. It's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. Had not been through anything like that. Had not had a request like this before, and certainly had not had transmissions of dispatches sent to me before. So I immediately called our counsel, Kathy, and forwarded to her that progression of a series of dispatches that were sent to me. Upon her reviewing it, and I'm going to let Kathy talk about this as well, because I certainly don't want to misrepresent anything about our conversation. But as soon as she had a chance to listen to them, we had talked again that afternoon, and had discussed what to do with this. Like I said, it's kind of out of our wheelhouse. I'd never had encountered this before. I did not know what to do, but had suggested that these calls be sent to Devon to be distributed to all the council members. And I was advised at that point that that probably was not the most appropriate action to take at that moment while our council had an opportunity to look into what the correct procedure would be. So obviously Kathy and I had been on the phone quite a bit over that period of time and into the next couple days. So we thought that it would be best to try to get this information to the council members as quickly as possible, but then it became a legal question apparently as to what format the council would be given the information. We had talked about we weighed a session, closed session, open session, and there was a catch-22 involved, and that Kathy will explain. She can do it better than I. So we were thinking originally closed session would probably be the most appropriate format, but unfortunately for legal concerns that wasn't going to work. The open session also was not an appropriate format immediately while we were talking because there was sensitive information that was included in those dispatches, and the information, of course, including potentially identifying the people who were involved in the calls, as well as any medical condition that was related to those calls and the dispatches. So Kathy then, at the end of that day, Wednesday, came up with the idea. She thought the best way to do this would be to send the recordings off to Northwest Court Reporters, and have them transcribe the recordings, and then once Kathy had them, she could redact them, take that critical information out, and get it to the council members. So Kathy then proceeded on Thursday to get that information to the transcribers. The transcribers came back with the information on Friday, and that's when they were redacted and sent, I think, to Devin, and Devin then proceeded to get them out to the council members. In the meantime, I had received a couple calls from two of the council members, explained to them what was going on. And I had put a call into Josh. I talked to Kathy and said, I believe that Josh needs to be apprised of this. And she gave me parameters in which I could give him information about the issues. And I did that on Thursday and on Friday. Talked with Josh, and then I had an opportunity to come in Saturday and meet with Josh personally for, I don't know, a little bit more than an hour, I think. And that obviously leads to where we're at today. So I'm going to let Kathy explain the legal issues.
Yeah. Again, similarly, I have not received recordings by email, but my initial thought, to be honest, was, well, this is out on the scanners, and a resident, a member of the public, has already been given a copy. That I initially thought possibly it's a public record. I then looked at the statutes and saw that there's that 257, I think that's it, whatever I told you in the memo, which specifically prohibits ambulance service providers from giving out any information relating to the condition, the medical treatment, and something else of the patient. But it did allow a lot of information, response time, all that kind of stuff that's in the transcript. So I was concerned about this idea that it's already been given out to a member of the public, and I talked with the League of Wisconsin Municipalities and the Department of Justice, Open Government Division, the attorney there. And their opinion was that no, just because another governmental entity has given it out, you have a specific statute you have to comply with that prohibits giving out any confidential information regarding the patient. So with that, I realized, okay, we cannot just simply give this recording to our council members. I thought the easiest and quickest way to redact it was to get it in the hands of the court reporters and have them do that, which they did. In terms of open or closed session, again, any exemptions to the requirement that councils meet in public are to be construed narrowly, and if it's a judgment call, benefit of the doubt goes to openness. We have a statute that explicitly states all this information is public information. It concerned a matter of public safety, a matter of provision of emergency medical services, plus it's a matter of great interest and concern in the city of Hudson. So again, I talked with both, the same league attorney and the DOJ attorney, and they agreed that the exemptions don't apply to this if you're talking about these public safety issues involved in the call, which is what we are here to talk about tonight. several issues that this call raises. So that's how we got to, well, then the other question was, well, there was a sense of urgency. I sensed from the mayor in terms of this information is out in the public. We don't have control of it really at this point. And wouldn't the council members rather be apprised of it from the city and deal with it rather than hear about it either on the street or from other constituents that we have a recording in our possession? Or wouldn't they rather hear from it right away from the mayor who received the recording from a constituent? So that was our thought process. I think it's required under the law to, if you're going to meet about it, to meet in open session. And the issues we're addressing tonight are the public safety issues that maybe, that are at least raised in the transcript and the call.
So we had obviously a catch-22. I think it would have been personally, I think it would have been better to try to handle this in closed session, but our hands were tied. My question to Kathy was, can we do it in closed and then come back out into open? And Kathy said, no, we really can't go into closed because of the issues that she just brought forth here. And that's when she came upon the idea that we could get this transcribed and then get it out here and then put it in the public domain this way. So it's one of the thought process that I had. I went back to the whole notion of everybody finding out about us not having an ambulance for a 12-hour period coming in an ad hoc committee meeting, coming from somebody that was not an elected official, and we were not in possession of that information. And I thought, we can't let that happen again. So I thought this would be the best way to deal with the issues. So here we are. So again, what's on the agenda is the call itself. I think a couple of the issues that were raised were the response time for the call. As the calls went out, there were simultaneous calls. I presume everybody has read the transcripts and paid particular attention to a couple of the issues that were being raised by the constituent. One was the timestamps, and the other that the call, when there was a realization that we did not have a second ambulance available for the second call in North Hudson, that the call then instead was directed to River Falls rather than to the closest ambulance nearby. I know Josh is ready to respond to those in my conversation I had with him Saturday. So hopefully, I presume that he's had enough lead time to be fully apprised of what the issues are and be able to respond to those. And in the meantime, I see also that the constituent is here, and I don't know if he would like to make a statement here or not, but that's going to be at your discretion if you want him to be able to say what he found to be out of the ordinary or disturbing. Or we could start with Josh, and Josh could run us through the call. So I'm going to let you guys decide how you want the flow of the meeting to go right now.
I would think hearing from Josh would be most appropriate. That's kind of where this process should start, with the department reviewing what happened, protocols, all that sort of thing, and then look for issues.
Okay.
Is there a written copy of the complaint?
No, there was no actual.
Because we got all this stuff, but there really wasn't any explanation as far as why we were meeting. We had to dig through this to get
Well, there
that.
wasn't, to my knowledge, a written complaint, but the concern was expressed by submitting the recording.
Okay, but it wasn't expanded upon what the concerns were. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what the concerns were. It would have saved a lot of time if we had gotten more information about what this was all about.
Okay. So, obviously, there was no written complaint. So, do you want to hear the complaint? And
Well, let's just have Josh run us through things.
okay.
Before I talk, I would like to hear the complaint and the concerns from the person that reported the incident, so I can get everything done without doing city council calisthenics or running back
Everybody
and
good
forth.
with that? Okay.
Okay.
Paul, would you like to?
Paul Malika, 207 South 17th Street, Hudson, Wisconsin. There's an app out there called, let me make sure I tell it to you right, Broadcastify. It's an app out there. You can go look it up on the internet.
You speaking to the mic? I'm
can-
sorry.
you can look- you can look-
identify yourself and address.
Paul Malika, 207 South 17th Street, Hudson.
Can you repeat the name of that app?
The app is called Broadcastify.
Broadcast.
Broadcastify, yes. And you can pull it up and you can listen live time to scanners anywhere in the country. You can pay a fee and you can also go back and listen to previous calls. So anybody can go out, get this app, and if they know the date, they can pull up the call and listen to the call in its entirety with all the breaks and everything in between. What concerned me the most about this is every one of you know I've been to meetings here before, and everybody's big hang-up is called response time. That is what made me jump on this deal, because everybody seems to forget here it is about someone's life. And in my book, nobody has the right to play God, and that's what I felt what was happening. When you listen to this call and you listen to it live, it really makes you wonder what kind of a service we have. That's why you are here. I have a lot of elderly people in my neighborhood that I help a lot. They're all over 74 years old. And I will tell you, I worry about the liability side to the city. What happens if one of these two people would have died? What would have happened? Is there negligence on our part as a city? And if there is, and we get sued, who's responsible? Will the insurance cover that? I look at the big picture. I worry about the safety of this city. That's why last week when I was up here, I questioned this, the financing of this whole, the fiscal responsibility that you have to this city. And this worries me. These calls have been going on for this. It's not a surprise to anybody that St. Croix EMS and Lakeview have not been a pleasant the last 2 years. How many calls are out there in the last 2 years that an ambulance has come to Hudson that is not EMS? There's a lot of calls. What happens if something over there a year ago or something affected somebody's health? Now this is out there. I didn't want to come here tonight. This is not what I wanted to do on my Monday night. I think it's my responsibility, hearing that call, that I need to make it aware to the public. Whether it would have came out or not, I don't know.
So the issues, Paul?
The issue? My issue is when the initial call goes out informing EMS of 2 simultaneous calls asking EMS for primary and secondary assistance, does the county know EMS has 2 ambulances available last Saturday night? Because it appears the way the call comes out, that was my concern. How do they know there's 2 ambulances on call? 3 minutes and 2 seconds into the initial EMS responds, asks for an all call, and that they will be headed to Hunter Hill. At 8 minutes and 32 seconds from the initial page to St. Croix EMS is still a quarter a mile away from Hunter Hill. From the initial call that came in on the page, 8 minutes and 32 seconds later, St. Croix EMS is a quarter a mile away from Hunter Hill. My question always has been, and as I do this, what is our true staffing with EMS? What is our true response time with EMS? And again, I stress, the issue about this is people's lives. That's what is at stake here. There can be no mistakes. Mistakes are going to cost somebody money. And everybody here needs to understand that. This is not a game. And I don't know what it's going to take for you people to understand that. And now it's on record. Everybody knows. Anybody can go look at this call. Anybody can listen to it. Anybody can go out there and put it out there for everybody to hear. That was my concern. My concern was not to get this made public. That was my concern. I worry for the safety of the city. Maybe none of you do, but I really do. I have been in this city for almost 30 years, and I like this city, and I don't want to move. But if something like that happens and we get sued, what are we going to do as a city? There can be no mistakes made in this. This is a service for the city that we should not have to worry about. Do you understand my concern? Or am I out of whack here? I don't know.
Do you have any questions?
Can I sit down?
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Sorry.
What would you like to know?
Well, you heard the concern. One of the concerns that I had in reading this is that the person, I don't know who it was, paramedic, I presume, or EMT, put a call to, instructed the county to put the call out to River Falls when they realized that there wasn't a second ambulance available.
Correct.
I think later in the transcript it indicates that that person also knew at that moment that there was an ambulance waiting at the hospital.
Correct.
So
it's human error. He had a lot of stuff going on. He's jockeying two calls at the same time. He's talking with dispatch. He's getting patient information. He's listening to both calls. He's doing a lot of stuff. It's human error. We're humans. We make errors. Dispatch corrected the error immediately and said that, you know, River Falls is going out on another call. Would you like us to send Lakeview? The medic stated that, yes, Lakeview's at Hudson Hospital. Go ahead and send Lakeview EMS to the North Hudson call. That medic in question that Paul missed from his little report is that my medic also requested an all call from St. Croix County Dispatch for more staff for St. Croix EMS, which dispatch didn't page for almost 3 minutes.
why don't you explain, Josh, what that means?
Which part?
The all call. So
All
regular
calls.
procedure.
All call is what we'll put out if we get busy or whatever. We'll send out an all. You know, dispatch will say this is an all call for St. Croix EMS for a call in North Hudson, and that goes all like that.
But that's to everybody. So
It goes everybody that works for St. Croix EMS that carries a pager.
okay. And were we supposed to have 2 ambulance staff that night?
Were we supposed to? Well, yeah, we have budgeted for 2 ambulances.
Okay.
But my slow times are from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. So I'm not really pushing to have a second ambulance staff between those hours. This happens to fall within those hours, so I get burnt.
So I noticed also in there that that soon after the...
In what? What are you reading?
Oh, I'm reading the transcript, I apologize. Do you have it there?
I do not. But I know this call by like the back of my hands.
Okay. So, soon after the med that was in the ambulance asked them to do the all-call,
Yep,
before they knew that the all-call hadn't gone out,
correct?
they asked for the dispatch to contact River Falls.
Correct.
Okay, so even though the county didn't get the all-call out for 3 minutes, there was, I think, a minute and a half in, the med in the ambulance, thinking that an all-call had gone out, still told them, call River Falls.
Correct.
So it didn't even wait to hear if there was an all-call response or not.
No, that's usually the way we do it. We send an all-call, but we also get mutual aid started right away.
Okay?
Because we don't know if we're going to get anybody or not. So why wait extra minutes to see if somebody shows up to respond in a truck and then call mutual aid? We start them both at the same time, or within seconds of each other. Mutual aid and an all-call. That's the way it's been done for the 22 years that I've been here.
Okay. So twice the med in the ambulance told them to call River Falls.
You only asked them
Twice.
once.
I see in the transcript, unless I have that wrong, and I know I've gotten things wrong before. Our attorneys pointed that out. But thought that call went out before they knew there wasn't an all call. At 22:15, 5182, which is us, right?
Correct?
Can you start River Falls on the call in North Hudson?
Correct. That's right after we got the call.
Right.
Both calls.
And then later, at 22:41, we copied all call, but nothing after that. That's when they realized that they didn't have the all call out, and then 5182 responded, Lakeview is at Hudson Hospital right now, you can tone them out.
And what time was that?
22:16.
22:16.
Yeah, so twice they did.
That Lakeview was at, repeat that? That Lakeview was at the hospital?
What does that mean, you can tone them out?
That River Falls, that's when dispatch came back. Dispatch stated to 5182 that River Falls was just sent on another call in Pierce County, in their area. Dispatch then asked the medic in 5182 if he would like River Falls still to be sent, or if to send Lakeview. The medic got back on the radio and said, Lakeview is at the hospital, go ahead and send Lakeview to the call in North Hudson.
Okay.
Okay,
Medic only asked for River Falls once on the initial time.
Okay.
what does that mean? It says, all right, 5182, I apologize. Lakeview is at Hudson Hospital right now. You can tone them out. Does that mean you can tell them to go?
Phone them out. It means give them the call, page them
Okay.
out, notify them,
Notify them,
go
okay.
through their process.
I think they did the all-call twice. It's confusing
All call,
here.
every call we get gets done twice. There's a first page and a second page. Just because, you know, if it's in the middle of the night and you're sleeping and you wake up, you probably miss a good majority of the first call. So every call that gets toned out through our pagers, we have 2 calls for it.
Okay.
And I'd like to clarify some times that Paul had as far as our response times. So to the call on Hunter Hill, we were paged at 2212, we're en route at 2214, and on scene at 2020. And I believe Paul stated that at the 8-minute mark, we were still a quarter mile away. These are times right from dispatch. This is dispatcher's report. Problem with listening to scanner apps is there's a minute or two delay when you listen to any scanner apps, because it's getting recorded from somewhere else and getting rebroadcasted back out.
Okay, so at 22:19
22.
and a half, they say they're a quarter mile away. Right?
Roughly.
Can you clarify one more time those times, Josh? I wasn't following on the, you said we were answering the call.
We were dispatched at 22:12. We went en route to the call at 22:14.
Right, okay.
We arrived at the call at 22:20.
Which, if you
Which is about
if you
6
delineate
minutes.
this is a what minute call response time. At the end of the day, it's when you receive the dispatch.
The time where our pagers go off to the time we arrive on scene, which is 6 minutes.
Josh, how many times or how many years has River Falls been our backup mutual aid and first to be called out?
For the 22 years that I've been here,
So longer than that, probably.
probably. River Falls obviously was the closest one to us.
Now, as I read the transcript as a layman person, looking at that transcript, any public person, I think, would look at that and go, why are they calling River Falls when minutes are the precious time? To me, it doesn't make sense when it's in writing like it is on the transcript. Now, I have not heard the call, so I don't know how it sounded, but that doesn't make sense, and especially if dispatch and/or paramedic knew Lakeview was at the hospital.
Correct.
Common sense, as you call that.
Right. Common sense. I mean, yeah, it is common
So
sense.
the breakdown,
Was there an error made on Saturday, March 9th? Sure.
okay,
Should Lakeview have been called first? Sure. But you also got to take into the human factor. I mean, it's in the middle of the night. They just got, well, not middle of the night, but 10 o'clock at night. He just got done with another call. 2 calls drop out on my once. They're trying to get out of the hospital from the previous call that they're on. They're trying to put their truck back in order so they can get en route and get on this call. He's also trying to figure out what's going on with the call in the city. He's also trying to figure out what's going on with the call in Hunter Hill. He's also talking with dispatch, trying to get an all-call page sent out and trying to get mutual aid started. Did he call for the not the very closest truck? Sure. But it's an issue that I sat down and it's corrected.
the other question then would be, we were understaffed. We didn't have the second ambulance. We weren't prepared for the second call, were we?
I don't have a crystal ball, and I can't tell you when call. I mean, if I did, I mean, we could have been completely staffed, and what happens if, you know, we had 3 calls in a row?
Right.
Well, I mean, would I be standing here still and getting talked to about how come we didn't have a 3rd ambulance going on the call?
Right.
What if Lakeview wasn't sitting at the hospital March 9th?
Right.
Then would I still be standing here having this conversation? I mean, there's too many facts, and everybody asks me, well, is there a policy in place? You can't write a policy that's got so many factors that your policy would be as thick as the Webster Dictionary. And have somebody try to remember that, all the what ifs and the pro and everything that goes into this.
Yeah. Well, and the layman, and just the normal common sense look at this, it looks bad. It looks like we were unprepared. It looks like there was favoritism sent out to River Falls instead of Lakeview because of the situation.
How is there favoritism?
That's just what it assumes. It looks like it when you read it. I'm just being plain Jane with you.
Yeah,
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. So what went bad with the call?
I can't answer that. I wasn't there. I mean, I only see what I read.
But you made the statement that the call looks bad. I want to know what
from somebody reading a transcript like that. It looks like it was called out. It should have never been called to River Falls to me.
Right.
Should have been called to Lakeview at the Hudson Hospital.
And how come nobody picked up the phone and asked me what's going on?
I can't answer that myself. I can't answer that, Josh. But in just looking at it as plain Jane, that's what it looks like.
So your question is, why didn't somebody call you about it, ask you? And that's
Absolutely.
I think that's a very good question, a legitimate question. And I go back to, by the time we were aware of this, we already had these recordings in our possession, or at least I did. I shouldn't say we, I did. And like I said, immediately I called Kathy to say, all right, look at what I've got, now what do I do? So I called you the moment Kathy said she thought it would be okay to call you.
Correct. But you called me and I asked you a couple simple questions. What's it in regards to? Can't tell you. What's the issue? Can't tell you.
Well, that's not quite how it went. I told you it regarded 2 simultaneous calls that
On
went
the
out.
second phone call you made to me Friday
No,
night.
the second phone call, I told you what the issues were. The first phone call, I said that it involves 2 simultaneous calls that went out at about 10 o'clock on Saturday night. And
Correct.
and you said, what were they about? And I said, that I can't really talk about right now. And then I talked to Kathy after that the following day, and she said, go ahead, you can tell them what it's about. And I did. Again, the moment I had release,
Correct.
and you were contacted before anybody here, and forgive me for that, council members, but again, you were the first call that I made, right to you, not to the council, because I was also told that because of information issues that we had and misinformation issues that might happen with just apprising people without having stuff in front of them that they can refer to, that I probably shouldn't do that. Did I say that accurately, Kathy?
I did say I'd like to get my legal bearings on this. I think if we just start saying things, and to be honest, the issues involved took some time. I'm not an expert in any of this, and so it took me time just to get a handle on the open records, the open meeting, and before putting out too much information, I just felt we needed to know how we can deal with that information.
So, but the bottom line is I let you know as quickly as I could. Yours was the very first call.
Correct.
And I think you know me from in the past. I have given you heads up before you get broadsided by people. I give you information as much as I can.
Yeah. I just want to know why. I got a call right away Thursday, I think, from city council members, Friday, whenever it was, asking me what happened or what's going on. I got no clue. That makes me look like a joke. I got city council members calling me, what's this meeting about? I don't know.
That's another logistical problem with setting meetings. You have to give a certain amount of notice. You have to find out if people are going to be available. At that time, the council, no one had any information, but the mayor felt there needed to be a meeting on it, and so in order to even have that happen, feelers have to go out to members about are they available. Right. But there was no meeting scheduled, I think, until Friday when we had the basic legal grounds for how to deal with this information.
Right.
So, and again, maybe people want to dwell on that. I don't particularly, because this is all about safety for the community. This is all about transparency, and this is about local control. And like I said, I wanted to get out in front of this, unlike a past experience that we've had, before it got out to the public. I thought we needed to deal with it, and the public had to be assured that we were dealing with it appropriately. So, but that's not the focus of the meeting.
Right. So then I'll revert back to the 2 issues that we're here for, obviously. Or priority of the calls, correct? Which call is more important than the other one? I believe that's one of the issues that you brought to my attention on Friday.
That was one of the things that was brought up.
Right, and then the proximity of who we called for backup, correct? So I think we discussed that. There's an error.
Since you heard response time as well.
Yeah, well, response time, I'm 2 minutes faster than what Paul's got written down, so. Yeah. Almost 3, so. You can debate that all day long, but I got dispatch sheet right here. I don't know where he got his times from. Whether he got them off the They're redacted tapes. I don't know, but
He was the one that was in possession of the recordings in the first place.
correct. Well, I got, like I said, I got dispatch. This is the times we go off of from dispatch. This is, about as legal record as you can get
Okay.
that we go off of from dispatch. As far as prioritizing the calls, St. Clair County uses a system called EMD, Emergency Medical Dispatching. So they receive a 911 call. There's a series of questions that the caller gets asked that deems a priority of the call, which is in your pamphlet that I handed out to you guys before the meeting, which is this one, Determinant Codes. So when you get a normal medical, like we have in North Hudson, that comes in as a 13 Charlie 1 response. And we have also a welfare call in the city of Hudson. But since that call is radioed into dispatch by law enforcement because they're requesting an ambulance, that call does not get emergency medical dispatched, does not get EMD'd. There's no priority codes, there's no questions asked. Pretty much to us in the field, it's an unknown medical. So my medic relied on the information that he obtained once en route to that call, that this call is a higher priority over the call in North Hudson.
Where was that information?
It's right in the dispatch tapes, but it's all redacted, so you guys are missing a ton of information. So,
Well, I think the issue was, and I don't know the coding. I mean, there's no
coding.
The transcripts show they didn't say alpha, for example, on the welfare call. So
it's not an alpha call. They don't.
Right, and that's, I mean, we don't know
prioritize
that,
those
so
calls.
it's helpful to have that information.
Right.
The only thing I was made aware of from the police chief is just the rundown of the calls and what they mean.
And how
So I
come-
think that's very helpful, because we don't have, I mean, that explains what was in, I think what's important is what was in the ambulance driver's mind when he heard the call. And if you do welfare as a general medical, then that's something different. I wouldn't have known that.
We have to deem it as an unknown medical because we're not getting any medical information.
Okay.
Do you prioritize then? Because law
We have-
enforcement called it out as that?
We prioritize it by what we're getting from dispatch over the radio, what law enforcement.
Emergency.
Well, it depends on what we're getting called for. I mean, if we're law enforcement is called because they get their patient's got a nosebleed, that's why they didn't answer the phone. Well, then they can wait a couple minutes. But for the call that happened on that Saturday, this patient took priority over the other one. I mean, and the medics here that was working that night, if you guys want to ask him, his frame of mind, his thinking and stuff like that, but I mean, you called and got dispatch codes from Jeff, from police chief, correct?
Yeah, just so I could have some understanding of the transcript.
Right.
I mean, that's the only reason, and I noted that
The police
there's no
department.
code on the
Right.
North Hunt, or on the,
In the city call.
Hunter, yeah, in the city. And,
But the police department doesn't use dispatch codes.
well, this was actually, but I think where Jeff got it was from the county to explain to the police department,
Right.
and several of the police departments, not just ours, what these codes mean.
Right. We used it 2,064 times last year. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I know you know what they
My
mean.
crew
I
definitely
didn't.
knows what they mean.
Pardon?
My crew definitely knows what they
Yeah,
mean.
I don't doubt that.
And I don't know why you couldn't have called me to ask me for dispatch codes.
I don't know.
So,
It was maybe because the police put in the call for the welfare check. So the natural question is, what's a welfare check to the police? So, and there was no,
okay. So my medic working that day prioritizes the calls as the one in the city is more critical than the one in North Hudson. So that's the one he so chooses to respond to. The other problem without getting EMDs, the medics rely on EMD to try to prioritize these calls, and we don't get it. It makes it really hard for these medics to make a decision on which call to go to. If we would have went to North Hudson, would that have been the right decision? Don't know. But I can stand up here and tell you right now, I support my medic 110%, even if that means my job.
Would it be out of line to ask what was the net result for the patients?
Yeah, we can't be talking, this isn't about the condition of the patients.
I'm not asking that. I'm asking, was it critical that we
That's
got there?
related to the condition of the patient, and I was told very firmly by the, and I don't think your residents want.
Well, then I think we should stop talking about it if we're not going to be able to talk about how important the call was.
The outcome isn't important. For this purpose,
I'm not
it's
asking about
what's
the
on.
outcome. Was it a critical call when the medic got there? Was it a welfare call, or was it a critical, which sounds like not very much, or was it really, would it be somewhere on the system below an A, an emergency call? That's the, that's because that's what we're asking. We're saying, oh, this is a C call up here, but this is just a welfare call.
Well, actually,
So I think we're painting this by the words we're using here, and I really want to stop doing that. The guys made a judgment call, and we paid them to do that. The only mistake that I see here that was made was asking about River Falls, asking to have River Falls called first, and that was corrected pretty quickly. And that could be from, I don't know how many years of experience of saying River Falls is who we call. So let's be real careful here.
Pretty sure that River Falls thing was corrected within, I think it was like 18 seconds, maybe a little bit longer. I don't quite remember the times exactly, but it was corrected. It was fixed quick.
Well, it was corrected when the county dispatch said, per your request.
Correct.
And that's when it was corrected.
Right, which is relatively quick.
So the call itself was for a welfare check, right? Asking for evaluation?
We were
An eval?
We were called for, per officer on scene, requesting EMS, patient is very disorientated. That's what we were requested for. We weren't requested for an eval. We weren't requested for, we were requested for specific.
Is that part redacted here?
yeah, it is, and I really, were there lights and sirens?
This is where I'm going to get mad, because
Well,
no, just hang on a second. Let me speak. You had your turn, my turn. The information that you guys redact is the information that my medic standing in the back of the room uses to determine what call he's going to. And you guys are going to take this all out of the record and browbeat me. Well, you can't say that.
No,
And that's my point.
You cannot redact this stuff.
cannot
This
do
is the
this.
biggest question why I asked, why is this an open session? Biggest question. All this information that you redacted from this report is the critical information that we use in order to determine which call we go to first when multiple calls are at stake. Because law enforcement is calling us to this call means that we do not get a determinant code, whether we're going lights and sirens, pedals on the carpet, and we don't stop until we hit their driveway. Or if we're going alpha response, which is I stop for grandma crossing the street, I let the lady cross the road with her dog, I stop at stop signs, I drive normal traffic. My medic has no determinant code to figure out how this code goes, or how this call goes. But you need this information. If you don't want me to relay any of the information, then I guess I'm done talking, because this information needs to get relayed to get my point across.
the only reason I asked that was to determine whether, and maybe I'm using the wrong terminology, I understand you're having this reviewed by the medical director.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a very good thing, because then we can have people who are qualified to review it. But my only point in lights and sirens is, that would indicate to me, rightly or wrongly, and you can tell me, that he considered it an emergency situation, somewhat similar to the North Hudson.
If you truly listen to the dispatch tapes, every time my medic talks, you can hear the sirens in the background.
So that's a yes to the question?
That's a yes.
Okay. And that, I think, just shows, in my mind, that yes, he had concluded it was an emergency, and I don't question that then.
Mr. Mayor, I would like the motion to adjourn at this time.
Second.
Are there any other questions?
The reason I'm motioning to adjourn is I think this isn't an appropriate meeting. I think that we're in the middle of a highly difficult choice, and I understand there was a concerned citizen who took one call, and I think the claims that are being made from one call, which have already been acknowledged have had certain problems, is outrageous. If you want to know run times, we've got that data on it. Yes, we're all concerned about public safety, but does every time a citizen call and say, I have an issue, it goes to a council meeting? I think it's completely inappropriate that we're talking about this, and so I'm moving to adjourn at this time.
So we've got a motion and a second to adjourn. Before we do that, though, I just want to check to see if there were any other questions before,
Yep.
We'd like to make sure that the council members all have their questions asked.
Yeah, I have one last question. You said that the medic was just finishing up another call as this call came in?
Correct.
Okay.
I also want to see one other question. When there was the car accident at Menards, I believe it was in January, February, who was the backup that you called?
Lakeview.
Have you called Lakeview for other backup in the city since they've been at the hospital?
Absolutely.
So this is what my point is, that you can't take one call and extrapolate all these things. We need to talk to the people who know what's happening. So I just think the meeting's inappropriate.
I do find it ironic that we've redacted all the information and yet it's available out there.
I can't help that.
You know,
That's a requirement of state law.
I'm not criticizing, I understand, but it is very ironic that the information is available, but we don't have it to work with. And we shouldn't anyway, because we're not qualified to make that judgment. Mm-hmm. And going to the peer review, I think, is the best way to handle this. I look forward to that.
Okay, well, as I said, the meeting was called because there are concerns out there, and my biggest concern was that information was going to get out to the public, and they may ask, what are you guys doing about it? Are you in possession of this? So I thought it appropriate to call the meeting.
But Mr. Mayor,
I also find it very unfortunate that this information, some of the information is redacted, but I understand. As I said before, this is a catch-22 for us, but I think it's important that the folks out there fully understand that we're serious about any type of issue that comes up that relates to the safety of our community. And I think that the information that you brought forth here is right in line with everything that we need to be talking about, Josh. And I think you did a good job. So I don't find the meeting inappropriate. I don't find it, I find it unfortunate in that we did have a citizen that was concerned about the safety of the community and wanted it dealt with.
Yeah, but this could have been handled internally. This should have been handled internally.
Let me ask you that. How?
Let me ask you this. If I'm listening to my app tonight and I hear a police call that I don't think is handled correctly, is there a city council meeting the next week? If I listen to a fire call and I don't like what I'm hearing, do I get it in a transcript and have a city council meeting? It's not an appropriate way to handle it. It should be handled by the department heads. It should be handled internally.
Well, as I said, I think that the public needs to see that we are working on this, that we do handle these things. So, and as I said before, this is way outside the norm. It's the first time I've ever been confronted with this. In my conversation with our attorney, she said the same thing.
First time I've been confronted with it in the 22 years that I've been here. So,
yeah. All right. Any other questions?
I would just like to say a couple things. Well, first off, a question for you, Josh. Where was the location of the ambulance taking the call?
Which ambulance?
The ambulance 5182, is it?
Clearing the hospital from another call.
Got it. Thank you. I don't propose to know the right course of action in this, but I guess my feeling is, me as the EMS commission chair, not being apprised earlier, and I get why Mr. Mayor went to Kathy first, but I'm having conversations with Josh. I understand a lot more than I did 8 months ago about EMS. I guess I was just looking for information earlier, so I just wanted to say that. I understand the process, though.
Okay.
I guess I'd like to say one thing then. I'm in agreement that we're here to solve problems and fix procedures going forward. I think that's our role as leaders. I think we've identified an issue, and to me, the biggest issue was that the suggestion was made to call River Falls first. It was corrected within a matter of 18 seconds. I don't think it impacted the response time for probably either one of the calls, the overall response time, that suggestion of River Falls. And 22 years is a long time to have that suggestion come out of your mouth first automatically. We have no way to know. I know that, Josh, you've said we can't really write a procedure for giving the EMTs guidance to how to make that judgment call, but I think we should try. I think we should have a list of criteria that they should try to consider. We should practice it and not with us here, but you should practice it with your department, with your people, maybe in a situation where you're saying, well, what if this, what if that, what if this? You know, and this is a business strategy called process improvement, and it happens in every corner of the world. And I think we can have a procedure, maybe not a procedure, but maybe just a criteria list to help them think on their toes a little bit faster of what is going into this decision. Personally, I'd like to see this decision be made by the dispatch, by the county. They should know where all the ambulances are. We shouldn't be asking an EMT who's already, their brain is already on a future patient that they're en route to, and we're asking them to make the judgment call of who to call for backup. I would just like to see that goes back to somebody else who get it off that EMT's plate. But that's down the road. I understand we don't have the technology for that today, but I really think that a procedure, a checklist that is reviewed during times of calmness and not on calls, you know, not when the phone's ringing, not when the pager's ringing, but when you're sitting discussing staff issues with your staff. I too would like to just suggest that this special meeting was called in order, I don't like the situation that I know you gave a nice long 15-minute explanation of why we needed to meet this day, 2 days after it came to light. I think it probably could have gone on to a future agenda, next week's, or maybe even a couple weeks down the road, giving staff the time to work within, within their own departments, including our HR department, which I think should have been maybe involved. The city administrator could maybe come into play here and help with process. I personally think it was a strategic decision. It's a distraction. This meeting is pulling us from our attention away from the work we need to do to make sound and thoughtful decisions in our roles on the ad hoc EMS committee. It also ensures that St. Croix EMS appears in yet another Star Observer headline this week, placing St. Croix EMS into another exaggeratedly negative spotlight. We do not need to be reactionary at every step. It only serves to create an aura of chaos. Good leadership is thoughtfully responsive rather than continually reactive. I'd like to see us start striving to create an environment of clarity, creativity, and mindful focus.
One more piece on my end, just sitting on the EMS commission. I think this, looking at this call really also turns a mirror on what the function of the EMS commission is. You know, again, I've been in that role for, 8 months now. But one aspect of this that does concern me, that I don't know if we truly are looking on it with my partners as I'm looking at Stan in the audience, with EMS commission, is what is our staffing levels? You know, one aspect of this is we were one ambulance that evening from 10 to 6, and just being able to have visibility as EMS commission and other potential process changes at what we look at within the EMS commission. So I would ask Josh, would you be open to sharing more information in that process or in that meeting?
It's all public record, so
okay,
you can get whatever you want.
Okay, thank you.
We've talked about the call to suggest that River Falls be the ambulance, and saying it's, this perhaps is, that's partly based on history. That's the way we've always done it. I've been looking at the records for Lakeview and their calls to coming into St. Croix County, and they do not report arrival to St. Croix County probably 60% of the time. They're reporting of their timing, and and so this is a new process for them, perhaps. It just points out that people are forgetting to do this. They're following their old procedures for Alina, but they're not reporting to St. Croix County, and that's one of the things that we've talked about is a requirement. That 2 years ago when we were talking about the contract, that was a requirement that we get that kind of communication going on, and it is not. It's not happening. So it's just a training issue. Mr. Mueller's talked about, well, we haven't written the procedures, or we're writing the procedures, but it's just look at it as a training issue. They're making this mistake 60% of the time, not reporting their times to St. Croix County, so that we know, so the county knows that that's been resolved. So maybe their responsibility, maybe not. But we've got a lot of things that need to be cleaned up relative to what's already going on, let alone this medic saying call River Falls. I just see we're beating up one call, and do we need to know more? Perhaps. No. So
All right, are you done? I'm sorry.
I'm done. Thanks.
One last question, and I'm sorry. I know we have stuff on the floor. Question about this peer review from our medical director. Mm-hmm. I don't have time to look at what that statute is, 146.38. Do we as a body have visibility to the outcome of that peer review? Do you know? Is that
as far as I understand,
peer-to-peer?
As far as I understand, that just blocks it from being public because it's healthcare. It's a run report. It's healthcare information. It's HIPAA.
Got it.
But I mean, I haven't dug into the statute to fully read it and see what it says, so I don't know
either, to be honest.
But as far as I know, through Wisconsin state statute, it blocks it from becoming public.
Can I just say that I appreciate you reaching out to our medical director to do a peer review on this? Yep. I think that's a very appropriate response, so thank you.
I'm an open book. All you got to do is come and pick up a phone, ask a question. And that goes for everybody in the audience, too. I said it in North Hudson earlier. If you got questions, call me. I'm sure none of us want to be sitting in a meeting that we don't need to be sitting in. So call me. I'm not going to hide anything. If you want to know, I'll tell you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Josh, thank you. I want to thank everybody in the audience for being here tonight. It was, frankly, personally, I think it was a critical meeting that we have. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned.